Hi, we are in the Big Chill in King's Cross, which is why you can hear a bit of background music.
It's not me singing, although I might join in at some point.
It's ever so lovely and sunny out here. We are with Lisa Mackenzie and Kat Wilson, who are from the Vaginismus Network. I said that right?
Yes. You did, yes.
Okay.
I've been practicing, and the way I've learned to say it is fast. Vaginismus.
Vaginismus.
Vaginismus. It sounds like a dinosaur.
It rhymes with Christmas, so remember that.
And does it feel like Christmas every day for
it
you
is
ladies?
a special gift. It's a special
the gift that keeps on giving.
So that seems a good place to start. For anyone who may not be aware of what vaginismus is, could you give us a little...
Vaginismus is essentially a psychosomatic, psychosexual condition whereby upon penetration the vagina will involuntarily clamp up. So it could be you're trying to insert a penis, which seems the obvious choice, but it could also be a tampon. There's more to life than that. Or a tampon, or your finger, anything. And it's not, I'm not talking when, you're trying to stop a pee coming out and your pelvic floor muscles are tense. I'm talking kind of full blown, nothing's going in there. There's different, I'd say, varying degrees of it. So for some women, penetration is impossible. For some, it's extremely painful. For some, it's difficult. And it's something that Kat and I have had our entire adult lives, actually, and it's how we met. So I guess I've got Vaginismus to thank for having you in my life.
Yay. Okay, well, that's one of my questions. How did you two meet? Because it seems to me this isn't a thing that people talk about very commonly. We know what it is because the writer Christine Robertson wrote a piece for us back when we were an online magazine. Mm-hmm. And apart from that, my only other encounter with it is it sometimes happens to Liz Lemon in 30 Rock. I don't know. Yes,
I've not,
it does.
I've never watched it. I will now. Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, no, it's not something that people really like to talk about. Although that is getting better, I think. I think in general, people are talking a lot more about women's health and things that would maybe before people would have thought would be embarrassing. People are now more open about it. In 2015, I started seeing a new therapist. I've seen a lot of therapists for vaginismus. It's great. But I started seeing a new one, and it was feeling quite positive. I felt like it was kind of going somewhere. But all the time, whenever I was going for sessions with her, I just kept saying to her, I just feel like it would be so much better if I could speak to someone else that had it. Because it's all great speaking to her about it, but obviously, it's that thing of having someone who actually knows how you feel. I'd kind of said to my therapist a few times, I just feel like if I was diagnosed with any other condition, there would be a support group or a leaflet or a website or something that I would be directed to that I could get some support or some kind of connection with someone else that has the same thing. Yep. But my therapist was basically like, well, there isn't, so go away. So I started blogging. I just set up a blog and started to write about my treatment and about how I felt about vaginismus. And at the end of every post, I just put an email address and just said, look, if anyone happens to be in Glasgow or in Scotland even, get in touch and let's go for coffee. And within just like a day of having that blog up, nobody from Scotland, but people from all over the world were getting in touch, just saying, I just feel exactly the same way as you. Like, you're saying all these things that I'm thinking. And exactly the same thing, I don't know how to find someone else that has this condition. So time went on, I was still blogging, and then eventually in 2016 I got an email from a lady called Lisa who lived in London. And I was like, this is not what I'm looking for right now, I'm looking for Scotland only. We just started emailing, and just really quickly we were like, oh okay, like we really clicked and had a lot in common, but also just both had really similar sort of feelings about how wrong it was that there was just this lack of connection for people. And
can I ask how common it is?
Apparently it affects 1 in every 500 women, but I believe it's much, much higher than that, because it's a condition that definitely makes you feel very ashamed, isolated. There's a lot of stigma surrounding it as well. So women often bury their head in the sand, don't want to deal with it, or are too kind of ashamed or embarrassed to seek treatment. Sometimes when they do, they're misdiagnosed, or we hear so many women say, oh yeah, I was just told to go and drink a glass of wine and chill out and just relax. So that's the official statistic out there, but I believe it must be much, much higher than that.
That's interesting, because I think women are sold the lie from when we're girls as well, that sometimes sex will be painful. It's just a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's another reason that, I mean, like some women, there's like Lisa was saying, there might be a clear trigger why someone has vaginismus, but for me it was I have absolutely no idea, and all I can kind of put it down to is just really crap sex education and a fear of pain. I went to a Catholic school, so my sex education was do not do it.
Yeah,
you know,
Yes,
it's pretty, you know, and I was quite a good girl and like didn't want to, you know, I didn't break those rules. And when all my friends started to kind of get boyfriends and start to do things that were sexual, you know, I was like, how can they do that? That's terrible. But also I just had the total fear of pain, and like my, you know, most of my sex education came from friends or Shout magazine problem page, you know, and it was all about
Shout.
yeah, it was great. Well, it was great, but also you know, it was
wasn't
all
as well.
about you might bleed, there might be pain. Like even with tampons, like the first time I tried to use a tampon, I remember reading a problem in Shout magazine which was about a girl that put a tampon in and then passed out because it was so painful, and I just had a total fear. I was like, well, that's definitely going to happen to me. But it was just rubbish education around
Yes.
my own body and sex, I think, that then led to this kind of just fear of
More needs
of
to be
it,
done in the
yeah.
sex education space, so we both feel very passionately about this. My sex education at school was so crap, it was awful. So I remember I was about 15 and a science teacher saying, oh, I forgot to show you this video in year 7, so we're going to watch it today. And it was so narrow and black and white, and I remember it specifically. It was a cartoon and it said, and when the man and the woman love each other, they fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. And that's how sex works. And I think the boys as
feel a
well
bit
might
sick.
have been, I know. And I think when they talked about periods and, you know, women a bit more, I believe the boys were sent out of the room, and I know that this has happened for other women as well.
Oh yeah, we had
It's
like
why?
sex-specific sex education.
It shouldn't
Yeah.
be the way though. It's crazy.
Oh no, well, and also there's very little known about there's very little taught about women's bodies, and in the textbooks for biology, women's bodies are just merely functional on a reproductive level. There's
Yeah.
nothing about pleasure for women or
No,
anything. Sex
no.
is all about babies and male ejaculation. So
Yeah.
we just don't get to learn about our bodies, but it also means we're not encouraged to be curious about them.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's why with vaginismus, a lot of, and I definitely used to be one of these women that it was all about getting to the point that a penis was going in. Like, you know, sex was just, it wasn't enjoyable. It was sore and it was awkward and it was stressful. And even when I was able to insert a penis, you know, you're meant to feel that's you're done. My therapist is like, you don't have vaginismus anymore, congratulations, you know, because you got a dick in you.
Can I just say, you did make it sound very sexy on 2 occasions. Insert a penis and got a dick in you. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I love it when she
Christ,
says dick.
It's not even lunchtime.
I know. I mean, you know, and obviously, like, it is really important. It's a really great thing sometimes for some couples. I just had no idea that wasn't the only way to have a sexual relationship as an adult.
Yeah.
All the things that me and my partner could do and did do, I was like, this is what teenagers do, and you know, we should be getting to the next stage now of
The baseball field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sex is seen as the gold standard, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sorry,
also,
not
I mean-
sex, penis and vagina sex.
Penetrative
And
penis and vagina sex.
When you
yeah.
have something like vaginismus, it's like, well, if you can't achieve that, then you feel broken or you feel like a failure. I didn't feel like a proper adult for years.
I'm curious. So obviously you've said it's psychosexual, it's psychosomatic. So could you just talk us through, like, literally what happens? What is the physical manifestation?
I always think the best way to kind of explain it is like if I stuck my finger or tried to stick my finger in your eye, your eye would close shut. Like it's like your reflexes would protect you from the pain of me putting a finger in your eye.
Correct. Put that finger away.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not in your testicles.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Don't worry. For me, anyway, I'm like that's kind of I think
Yeah,
a good
it
way
just
to
feels
describe
like
it.
a wall.
Yeah, it's
Just
like there's
hitting
nothing
a
there.
wall. Yeah.
For a really long time, I genuinely used to think, maybe I just don't have a vagina. Like, maybe I just don't... You know, you read these stories about people that don't have them, that are born without vaginas, and, you know, I was like, maybe that's me. And it was the only thing that made me go, oh, no, that's ridiculous, is because I have periods. And I was like, well, that's coming out somewhere, so there
Yeah.
obviously is
Yeah.
one in there somewhere. But that genuinely, it just feels like there's no go. It's like a brick wall.
Yeah.
So obviously, lovely chat about penis, but there are other things you need to put inside your
Yeah.
vagina. So it's going to affect your sexual health in ways. I mean, a speculum, for example.
Yeah.
That's a big no too. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah. I mean, that's something. Yeah, I've never had a smear test.
I haven't either, and it's not something I'm proud of, but it's something, I guess, because I didn't talk about my vaginismus for so many years. It was another means of burying my head in the sand.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to get so upset whenever I went to the doctors and the little notification would pop up about the smear test, and I'd go through the same story over and over again. And I wouldn't tell them I didn't tell them for a long time that it was because of vaginismus. I used to lie, or I dreaded those moments. It felt very invasive, and when you get the letters through as well. And I remember I didn't tell my mum about this for years, and when I turned 25 and I was obviously allowed to get a smear test, my mum was so concerned that I wasn't having one, but because I couldn't vocalise what was going on and that I had vaginismus, I used to have arguments with her, and she was like, but you're not respecting your body, you need to know if something's wrong, and it was horrible, but I didn't for years. I mean, I haven't yet. It's my mission to do it this year.
Yeah. One of the problems, I suppose, is that health professionals, some of them genuinely don't seem to know what vaginismus is.
Yes.
Like, if you go to your GP and say, I haven't had it because of vaginismus, quite often they look quite blank and quite confused, and oh yeah, of course, right, and you can tell that they're like, I don't really know what you're talking about. So actually one of the things we've got on our website, or the Vaginismus Network website, is a guide to smear tests, which is kind of for women going for smear tests. It's about how to you can relax and how to make the process a little bit easier, but it is also for health professionals to be like, these are all, it's not the same as someone who's a bit nervous about it. It's so much worse than that. It can be traumatic, it can be impossible. We have a guide now that people can read, because it's scary, the lack of knowledge in the medical profession, actually.
I had a look on your website and I saw a blog piece that had been written by one of your members. Do you call them members?
Yeah.
You're a network, yep,
Yeah.
of members, about getting pregnant, which also seems like that would be a tough call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fear that many women with vaginismus have. So there's a friend I've made who's in her early 20s, and I know for her it was a fear for a long time. But actually, there's an amazing lady called Karen Gurney. She's on Instagram as the Sex Doctor. We love her. And I'm going to share a post that she put up recently, and it's about getting pregnant with vaginismus, and actually that it is an option. And you can still, it's artificial insemination. There's kits you can order on bloody Amazon. You can do it yourself, you can do it at home whilst you're going through the treatment for vaginismus. So it's not, we've got to get through this because we need to get pregnant. You can still have that and work on yourself as well. So there's definitely options out there.
And actually the post on our website, that lady that wrote that, she had a splash pregnancy, so her partner just basically ejaculated nearby.
That put the fear of God in me.
Right, I didn't know. Oh, honestly, I mean, not to belittle it, because it's, I'm not trying to get pregnant, but as soon as I was able to have penetrative sex, I have never fully appreciated the contraceptive pill so much. I've been on it for years for period things, but then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I actually really I need to remember to take this.
Consideration
And I felt
now,
like a teenager. I was like, oh, this is what everyone went through when they first went on the pill. Suddenly I was like, oh my God, I haven't taken my pill. It was great.
It's everywhere.
But I know.
Don't touch anything on the tube, women. You might get other duff.
Exactly. You might get a splash. So, but not making light of that at all, actually, because for a lot of women it is actually, that's a massive upsetting thing in their life, and that's where a lot of the fear of failure and things comes from, is that side of it. But yeah, that lady that wrote that post, she's never had, I don't think she's ever had penetrative sex, and she's got 2 kids. So it's definitely, it is possible.
There's
It
options,
is,
which
it
is
possible.
really empowering.
Yeah.
You two strike me as people who deal with this by making light of it.
Oh,
when you all get together,
yeah.
is it very funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when we get together, or as a group.
As the whole group. I mean, I know, for example,
Um,
you've got a meeting this evening. Tell us about that.
Do you know what? We can laugh about things, we laugh at ourselves, but it is quite a serious event, because for many of the women who come, it's the first time they've been in a room, or knowingly been in a room with other women with vaginismus. And I remember at our first event, we did a Q&A afterwards, and women in the audience started, opening up, and it was very, very emotional, and you could hear a pin drop. Yes, we laugh at ourselves, but it's a big deal. And I think we have to remind ourselves that, because we've come so far on our own journeys. Like, I'm not in the grips of vaginismus anymore. It doesn't define me, it doesn't own me, it's something I'm dealing with, right? I have to remember sometimes how shit I felt back then, because when we meet these women, many of them are in that place, so you have to take it seriously, and we absolutely do.
Oh yeah, completely. And I think it's just, I mean, it's like any situation, it's judging who you're speaking to. There's some people who are similar to us and are up for laughing and joking, but yeah, I mean, there's other people, like Lisa said, that's just not appropriate. So it's just finding a balance. But I mean, our kind of main goal is to not get everyone to a point of laughing about it, but to get everyone to a point where it's not this big awful thing hanging over their heads, because it's, you know, at the end of the day, we're not dying, but, you know, it's just a condition. I always think, like, there's so many worse things we could be diagnosed with than this. You know,
when you were talking about the lady who had the splashback pregnancies, you mentioned
Splashback. I don't think
What's
that's
a
what she
splashback?
said. Splashback's the thing behind the sink.
I'm
Is that what
imagining
she
her
said?
a rebound.
Yeah.
Love yourself on that. Well, sorry, the splash pregnancy.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you can still be trying when you're undergoing treatment for vaginismus. So, what is treatment for vaginismus?
Oh, it's great. So it's not. So well,
I detected sarcasm.
yeah.
there.
So well, there's lots of like different things that people do. We've both had psychosexual therapy, and that's kind of what we're not doctors, by the way, we're not experts in this at all, but that's what we kind of recommend to people because it's worked for us. But with psychosexual therapy, you're basically, for mine anyway, it was talking in the room, talking through all the kind of emotional side of vaginismus, but then being set kind of practical tasks to do at home. So basically you're given vaginal dilators, which are, well, the NHS ones are big, white, plastic, phallic horrors, really. It's like a kind of willy on a stick, and you just have to, there's lots of different sizes, and you just have to kind of work your way through inserting them. So the first one is like about the size of a finger, and I mean, literally when I first started treatment, that was not, I couldn't even get that in.
I really wish you could see Kat's hand movements throughout this.
Yeah.
Lots of explanations.
Yeah. I mean, every woman with vaginismus, I think, has a similar, with dilators, but they are very important. But
I wouldn't have used them had I not known about the ones that I do use. So they're actually from the sex shop that we're going to tonight, and they're pretty, which helps. So they're nice and purple, not like clinical and white. What am I doing with my hand now?
No.
You're wanking off.
Yeah. Well, when you hear about these dilators, you'll understand.
And yeah, I think had I not known about those, or had my therapist not talked about those, I probably wouldn't have
They have
started
vibrator
using them.
in it.
They've
Did you
got
say
a
that?
vibrating
Yeah.
bullet. It's about pleasure as well as, training your vagina to take something.
Yeah.
So making your vagina, or vulva, all of the beautiful cave of wonders that we have, a sort of happy, more positive place than it has been.
Yeah, and a lot of it is about, actually with vaginismus, there's nothing wrong with your vagina, really. It's functional, it all works. It's your brain that's telling you, don't put that in there, that's going to be painful. So with dilators, you're sort of training your vagina in a way, but you're also training your brain and your mind.
Stop gesturing.
More hand movements. You're also training your brain and your body to kind of work together and trust yourself that you're not going to hurt yourself, and that what you're doing is okay.
And you're right, it's so much about the mind as well, because I remember when I started using my dilators and my mind was not in the right place, and I saw it as, oh, woe me, why have I got to do this when everyone else is out having normal in inverted commas sex? And it was clinical to me, it felt like homework. And then when there was a switch for me and I started engaging and breathing and enjoying it and finding pleasure in it, and that's when I suddenly made real progress with them. It's definitely a mind thing as well, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
So is there, I mean, I don't want to say the cure, but there is light at the end of the tunnel for someone who's got, that was a bad use of
Wow.
For anyone listening to this now,
Light goes out there.
who is in this situation, who feels it may be hopeless,
Yeah.
Yes.
that's not the case.
Definitely not. And I think that what we've been really passionate about recently is trying to work out what it, because a lot of the word that tends to get used is you've overcome it, which means that you've had a dick in you. But obviously for a lot of women, that's not what they're looking for. They don't want that. Or for me, yes, I can now have penetrative sex, but I'm like, it's not my favourite way to sex. Is it any woman's favourite way to sex? I'm not sure. So it's like, it's that kind of thing of defining what overcoming it means. And I think that, yes, absolutely, the treatment, you can get to the point that you can have a penis inside you, which is what some women really, really want to achieve, and that's great. But it's also about just your own mindset of just getting
100%.
over being ashamed and embarrassed and frustrated and hating yourself for having it. It's actually about just accepting it and not re-educating yourself about sex and all the things that you can do, instead of going, well, I can't do that. It's like, well, all these other things that you can do
cured is
good.
a different thing, I think, for every woman. And we get women at the event or emailing us saying, you know, how will I know when I'm cured, or how long will it take me to be cured? And I said, what does cured mean to you? Because for me, I think vaginismus will be something that will always be there. And I think, you know, if I'm with a partner in the future and we attempt penetrative sex, I can't say that word without stumbling.
Because you've got vaginismus.
It
Can't
rhymes with
say it, can't take it. You know, I think there'll always be that thought, oh, is this going to hurt? Is this going to be okay? But for me, cured is actually, I'm fine with it. It's not defining me anymore. It doesn't have this horrible grip or shadow over my life. I'm owning it now.
You've got it rather than it's got you.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Oh, I like that tagline. You're welcome.
So, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, we have a website, so it's thevaginismusnetwork.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram at the Vag Network. All the contact details are on our website. And yeah, we just encourage people if they want to talk to us or ask anything. I mean, this is the thing, we're not experts, you know, we're just...
And we have to say that all the time.
We're not
we're
doctors
just two women
and we're not therapists, but we have a lot of experience of living with it, and a lot of, you know, we've both changed so much, since we met, really.
Oh my God, yeah.
Just because of having the connection with each other, and now with all these other people. We really encourage people to get in touch, even if it's just a little email to say hello or a little tweet or whatever. It's just good.
So they're not on their own.
Yeah. Just because, it's so cool when you, the first time, I don't think we ever finished the story of how we met, but the first time we met...
2 hours later.
Yeah, it's not that interesting, but the first time we met in, a skeezy hotel in Birmingham, we thought that we'd meet halfway, and then I was, on the train for, 6 hours, and was like, this is not halfway.
No, I was going to say, she really had you.
She got me. I was naive Scottish person looking at a map going, yeah, that looks about right. No. But that night, was so amazing because we were just sitting in a pub talking about it, and we weren't, I think it's the first time ever, we weren't being quiet, we weren't
Do you remember that man?
Yeah, he could hear us.
He was loving it.
We were talking about lubricants and dilators and fannies, and it was great. But it was just that amazing thing, wasn't it, of just, I would say something that to anyone else would be like, that's quite a weird thing to feel or think, and you were like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Someone
I get
who
you.
just gets it.
Yeah.
It was life-changing for me.
Yeah, it's super important.
incredible.
So please, if anyone who's listening has vaginismus or thinks they have it, just get in touch and talk to us about it, and hopefully you'll get that same thing that we got of just someone understanding you. It's really cool.
Thank you so much. It's been really interesting. And you've talked about it in a way that, as someone who don't really do conversations about sex, Mickey's doing that face.
I'm rolling my eyes until I can see yesterday. So you've done very well.
I have, yeah.
I'm proud.
Can we all congratulate Hannah?
Yeah, well done.